brothers and sisters of Christ, my name is Brianna and I'm back with another video. And for today's video is the Lord is your marriage counselor. Don't worry, y'all, this ain't about to turn into, a marriage counseling channel that only talks about marriage, okay? But the Lord has been prompting me to talk about the things that he has showed me and has taught me about marriage. Before my fiance and I got engaged, I would pray this prayer asking the Lord to prepare us for marriage and to prepare us before we come together as one. And that prayer is literally still unfolding to this day. You know what I'm saying? Obviously, we're not married yet. Like I always say, we're engaged. So the Lord has still been pruning and preparing us. He has already prepared us in so many ways, but he is still pruning and preparing us in different ways and in different areas. And he's been calling us to go spiritually deeper as a couple before we get married next year, before we come together as one. He's been calling us to go higher into the kingdom, to go deeper. And when we first got engaged last year, I remember someone had asked me, were we going to do marriage counseling? And I was like, yes. At that time I said yes. I was excited about it. I was all for it. And at that time we were already close to the Lord then, but now we got even closer to the Lord. And he has shown me that we actually do not need marriage counseling. And it's so interesting because I didn't even necessarily think about this again, but the same person that asked me this before last year, they asked me this recently again, like, are y'all doing marriage counseling? And I'm like, you know what, we're not, because the Lord has been our marriage counselor. And it's not because we're a perfect couple. No, I'm not saying that. But the Lord has literally showed us multiple times in our relationship that he is our marriage counselor. You know what I'm saying? And just like he's the best lawyer, he's the best doctor, he's the best teacher, oh baby, he is also the best marriage counselor at that. Okay? And I'm a firm believer that any issue can be resolved with the Lord, because it can be and it will be. And I've learned more about marriage with the Lord than I have learned from any other human. You know what I'm saying? And the reason being is because the word of God is literally the foundation and the guide to a healthy and godly marriage. The word tells us how a marriage should be. It tells us our roles as a wife, and it tells a man's role as a husband. And like I said, we're engaged. And even then, before we even got engaged, since the beginning of our walk, we've been letting the Bible guide our relationship. And baby, I'll be the first to tell you that it helps. I'll be the first to tell you that it changed our whole relationship, because we both were something else. Okay, truth be told, we were something else. And the best thing about having the Lord as your marriage counselor is that no one is in your business. No one is gossiping about your business. He doesn't have favorites, and he is just. Okay? And there has been many times, that we've had disagreements. And I bring it right to the Lord. We bring it right to the Lord, and I pray about it. And when I pray, I ask the Lord to correct me if I'm wrong, and to soften my heart if I'm wrong as well. I don't just say, get on him. No. Look at my heart as well, and he has. There's been times that the Lord has corrected me and redirected me, and that's okay. You know what I'm saying? That's needed. And there has been times that he, correct my fiance as well. Whether it be us having a mature conversation and coming to an agreement and the issue gets resolved, or the Lord has corrected and got into his heart, corrected him without me even saying a word about it. But neither here or there, the issue gets resolved through the Lord. It's either we gonna sit down and have talk about it, come to an agreement, or he gonna nudge me like, you need to change this, or he gonna nudge him like, you need to change this. Because see, the thing about it is, he does not have favorites. He doesn't take sides. He's just, and he's faithful, and he's going to correct whoever is wrong. And some people think it's dumb to pray about everything, but baby, I pray about everything. Whether it's about my relationship or just in general, baby, I am going to pray, because the Lord is going to resolve it. Because the thing is about when it comes to relationship, the enemy starts with getting you and your significant other to bicker about little stuff and small stuff and stupid stuff. And it seems like it doesn't matter. It seems like it's really not affecting anything, but it does. And it will increase over time. And the enemy plays you two against each other with that bickering. And if you don't start praying while it's still considered small, if you don't stop the storm before it gets there and cause destruction to your home, it's going to get worse. You know what I'm saying? But I also want to say that everyone is different, okay? Marriage counseling is, you know, helpful and needed for some people. It depends on the person. You know what I'm saying? Some people need that, you know, like someone to speak to them. You know, they need that. And that doesn't make you any less close to God. But he does what he sees fit for each couple. But for my relationship personally, he showed us that we don't need it. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with marriage counseling, and I'm not trying to downplay marriage counseling. Like I said, it's needed and it's helpful for some. As I told y'all, I was originally thinking about doing marriage counseling. But as I look back on it, the only reason that I was thinking about doing marriage counseling was out of tradition. And because everybody else was doing, I feel like that's the thing we're supposed to do. It's the right thing to do, but not because the Lord has told us to. And that is key. You do what the Lord tells you to do when in your relationship with the Lord. We can't do stuff out of tradition and because everybody else did it. Because as I mentioned before, you know, our old pastor had mentioned marriage counseling for us, but something in my spirit never felt comfortable with that idea. But as I told y'all, you know, their marriage was not a godly example. And I just, honestly, I was feeling like an invasion, like it was kind of like to be nosy or stuff like that. So you have to pray and ask the Lord what he wants for your marriage. Everybody has a different direction. Obviously, the Lord needs to always be at the center of any and every marriage. You know what I'm saying? But he may have some people sit down and do marriage counseling and others to just completely lean on him. You know what I'm saying? But ask the Lord to lead you to someone who truly walks with the Lord and their life is an example and their marriage is an example and proof that they walk with the Lord. Seek wise counsel if you do decide to do marriage counseling, because don't let any and everybody come in there talking about counseling you. We got to see the fruit, because we can't have the blind leading the blind and people giving you unjust opinions and stuff. You know what I'm saying? We need godly examples. We need biblical examples of marriage to lead and counsel you and your spouse. But you know, you're also not obligated to do marriage counseling, and you're not obligated to do it at your church neither. I know traditionally people do it at the church that they go to, you know, their home church. But this is tradition. This is not biblical. So seek the Lord and ask him what he wants for your marriage. Now, with all that being said, I wanted to bring up, I watched a movie, and it's called War Room on Netflix. I watched that about a week or so ago, and I absolutely love that movie. It had me tear up a few times. It had me in the spirit, ready to jump up and pray. It had me full of joy. It was a good movie, and it really touched me, and it really blessed me. It was encouraging, and I felt the spirit of the Lord, baby. And it tied into this topic. And it's so funny because as I was watching the movie, I remember thinking to myself, like, I want to talk about this movie. This movie was so good that I wanted to talk about it in some way. And before I even finished watching the movie, the Lord ended up giving me this topic. And as I was typing in my notes, I was still finishing the movie. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, I don't want to tell y'all the movie, but I suppose I'm going to have to. So, there was a lady. She was a realtor. And her name was Elizabeth. And she was trying to help Clara. Is it Clara? She was an elder lady. She was trying to help her sell her house. Now, Clara the elder, you know, she was a God-fearing woman. And she had began, you know, asking Elizabeth questions about her faith. Of course, you know, Elizabeth got a little agitated, gave some pushback. And she's like, you know, I'm just trying to sell you a house. You know, why are you concerned about my faith? Just like, you know, how people do in real life. The second time Elizabeth came over to discuss like pricing about the house and what's her favorite room in the house, like just, you know, talk a little more about the housing. She ended up revealing that her and her husband were having issues because the elder woman had asked her, Clara, had asked her like, what is one thing she would make better in her life? And the elder, Elizabeth said her marriage, you know, that they fight, they bicker. So Clara asked her, how much do you pray for your husband? And her answer was very little. And Clara, the elder, ended up showing Elizabeth her closet and asked her to come to her home. She said, you know, come to my home for like an hour a day and I'm going to teach you how to fight spiritually. You know, we fight the wrong fight. We're fighting against each other. But I'm going to show you how to fight spiritually in prayer for your marriage, for your husband, how to fight the right way. And at first she kept making excuses and she was like, you know, I'm going to have to think about it, you know. That's usually how people, you know, we are in real life when it comes to people like trying to tell you about God and prayer. And they knew the Lord. They were going to church here and there, but they weren't, you know, they weren't locked in. But when she left Miss Clara's house, things got a little worse at her home, and she ended up going to Miss Clara, and she was venting. And long story short, eventually she went to war. Miss Clara showed her prayer closet, and she had like prayers like that she wrote out to the Lord, and she was telling her about her prayer closet, showed her a prayer closet. And Elizabeth went to war for her husband, and she went to war for her marriage, and he didn't even know it. And, you know, women, sometimes we have to fight first, and we have to lead our husband to the Lord. There ain't nothing wrong with that. You know what I'm saying? It ain't nothing wrong with it. Don't argue. Don't go back and forth with them. But get in that room. Get in that closet. Get in your car or wherever you go. Whatever works, baby. And pray. Because prayer works. And when the marriage is ordained by God, it can be patched back up and it can be restored. You know what I'm saying? And there was a scene in this movie where her husband was about to cheat. And someone texted her like, you know, I see your husband here with a woman, and you know about this woman, you know what's going on. She seen that text and she prayed. She got in that prayer closet and she prayed, and he ended up not cheating. And child, by the end of the movie, the whole dynamic of their household has shifted. Everything got better. Their marriage, their relationship with their child. And see, this is the type of stuff that God does in real life. This is not just a movie. This is real life stuff. This is real life situations. Everything changes when you seek the Lord. And when the man fall in line and surrender to the Lord, the whole house shifts. It's one thing for the woman to surrender to the Lord. You're going to notice a difference. But when the man surrenders to the Lord, the whole dynamic changes. The whole house shifts because the man is the head. You know what I'm saying? Pray for each other and pray with each other. Do not fight against each other, but fight with each other in prayer. But this is what I mean when I say God is your marriage counselor, because he is. Yes, you know, he used Clara to help out, to lead them to the Lord, but he does the work. You know what I'm saying? He did use her to plant that seed. Like, you need to go to war for your husband. You need to go to war for your marriage. You need to get in your prayer closet, but the Lord does the work, baby. You know what I'm saying? He does the convicting. He does the changing of the heart. He corrects. You know what I'm saying? He is the ultimate marriage counselor. Okay? And I absolutely love that movie because that movie showed that it represented that. You know what I'm saying? Because we could plant them seeds all day, but if people don't listen, it's going to be the same. When you surrender to the Lord and all your issues and your problems to the Lord, that's when he's going to start moving. He is the counselor. Oh my goodness, I love the Lord. I love the Lord because he is everything you need. Like I said, he's a doctor, he's a lawyer, he's a teacher, baby. And when a marriage is ordained by God and things are getting, not going the right way, the only thing that could be missing is the Lord. Any issue, you can bring it. Any issue, you bring it to the Lord. And he will resolve it. And like I said, sometimes you ain't even got to say nothing to your partner. You just bring it to prayer. And you're going to start seeing a change. And all of a sudden, your partner changing. And he like, I've literally seen this. And I was just like, I just be like, because when the Lord knows your heart and he sees you moving and working and praying to him and surrendering to him, he starts moving in ways that you've never seen before, ways that you didn't even ask for, ways that you didn't even expect, baby. Because he hears. The Lord is so wonderful. He is so good. He is so good. And I'm a firm believer that anything can be brought to the Lord and it will be resolved. I believe that. I believe that. But if this word is not for you, it's for somebody else, remember, I'm telling y'all it's because I love y'all. God bless.